So,
Yeah.
two questions. I mean, there's some good people there are some sympathetic people that work for DPW,
Oh, yeah.
but there are some straight up thieves. I mean, I do know people that have gotten their stuff back, but not all of it. I witnessed DPW one time in one of their trucks. I was trying to figure out why were they putting things in the way that they were, and it was because the nice things went closer, and that's what they were going to take home. I mean, that was my guess. That was the only thing that made sense. And I know people that have gone to get their stuff and it's missing. So is there a benefit to saying not only do you record the whole process if you can, but also record them handing you your stuff back at DPW with no downtime where you could have monkeyed around and removed stuff, and then just do it on bagging right there? A, is that legal, or can they say something about, no, you can't do it here? And then the other thing is I've seen sometimes they start doing a sweep, like an unannounced sweep, and there are people that say, oh, let me get my stuff together. And they take their shit too. And so my understanding is if you're willing to take it and move it along, they got nothing on you. But I've seen that happen so many times that it's heartbreaking. Like,
Yeah.
Is there any policy that's written in stone that says if the owner agrees to remove, then don't fuck with him, or?
Well, the policy you've got, the words, but they're not following the policy.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
There are some things, though, to say to that
I totally know that.
that are practical, like in the sense that the way this happens out in practice is take what you can, but then you're gone. We will take your stuff and we will bag and tag it. And that's often what they say. So they're like, look, you've got too much stuff here, you got to move. They give people time limits too. And so they have their own, practical standards of, like, in their documents, they say, like, we give a person 25 minutes to move. They can only take what they can take with them. But the policy is at least that even if they can't take everything with them, or there's over 25 minutes, they're supposed to bag and tag everything that that person is saying is their property. They're not doing that. And the issue of the workers, yeah, it's important to remember that most of these DPW workers are also poor people of color. Largely, the frontline workers are predominantly poor people of color, many of who have experienced homelessness, some who are currently living in the shelter, many people who know people on the streets. So yes, there's moments of incredible solidarity sometimes, and there's moments of power tripping and all of the complicated relationships and feuds that you have on the street among these workers taking stuff too. Many people on the street feel that their stuff is being taken by the workers.
So is this process the one that we're supposed to do? Are we encouraging the people when they do try and get their stuff back, like if they do have a tag, the magic tag, are we encouraging them to go with the representative of you guys so that there's a witness, or are we asking? I really do think it's important to document, what you get back, but is that on them, or?
Yeah, I mean, as you're approaching people, one is getting their stories of stuff that has happened to them in the past and giving them the context of information of if this stuff is happening in the future, what they can do and what we're looking for. And if it's happening to them, if they can record it, great. If they can't record it and this happened and they go and try to get their stuff, to call us immediately after to report this and to describe this. We can fill out a declaration, we can tell this story, and do that a little better as well. Yeah.
But it sounds like your question is if they want to go to the...
Yeah, my question is before they go, I think, because I suspect if you do get 10 people that have the magical ticket, 3 or 4 of them are going to have stuff missing. That's just my cynical viewpoint, but what I've heard people say before. So it might be beneficial. I mean, I know your manpower is stretched, and I know
Yeah, and they're horrible, like, too, at I think if they want to record, I guess we could think about recording that process and how to document.
Actually, there are some specific ones that
because a lot of times we've had people go there and they haven't been able to access their stuff within the time period they're supposed to, right? That's like clearly a violation. This stuff, though, of lost property and why it was taken, again, that's especially strong if they were able to record the stuff being told that it was going to be bagged and tagged and it not being there. If they're able to capture that and record that and notify us about that, that is particularly good evidence.
And we still have the card that shows like, it's the folding on the small
Yeah.
one, that is the process that people can go through to go to DPW to get their stuff, and, you know, to go through that. So that is something that folks still want.
Is that conveniently located anywhere? Where is that?
It's, down on Cesar Chavez, like
Not
off.
convenient.
Not
No,
convenient.
it's
Okay.
Petro
Okay.
and down there, and frankly, folks go there, they're there for hours, they, you know, get the runaround the whole time, and then, when, you know, folks finally go in, a lot of what I hear back is that, you know, there's just a bunch of stuff everywhere, and that it's not really, you know, like a system like it should be.
Yeah.
So just a comment and a question. I'm wondering if we should be, like, even telling people or encouraging people to go to that site on Cesar Chavez if it's going to end up wasting, you know, a few hours of their time. So maybe we should put some kind of disclaimer in here. And then the question was, so for something like, you know, what happened to Ronnie Goodwin, where he was trying to get his stuff out of his truck, and they wouldn't let him have it back. So you were saying that that's violating their own policy, but is it safe to say that that's also illegal or unconstitutional?
Well, in that specific case that was just reported on, Ronnie did get his stuff back, right?
He did, yeah. He also spent a night in jail, and they
Yeah.
booked him, they give him, so one of the big things now that they're
One of the big
giving out.
changes that they were not doing in the past.
Yeah, something that is relatively new is a 647E, which is illegal lodging. So this is a misdemeanor. Okay, so they're giving them out like hotcakes right now. Ronnie received one, and there's another, like a woman who I spoke with a couple weeks ago that she received one in the morning. They took her tent. They've been taking people's tents when it's not even up. Okay. And then in the afternoon, she told me, she said, I was so exhausted that I just needed some rest. So she was underneath the freeway down like Division and just tied a tarp to the fence there and was sleeping. She was sleeping. That's it. Second misdemeanor today, took her tarp. Okay.
As evidence.
Yeah, as evidence. So this is evidence. I
Because
asked.
when it's a misdemeanor, you said they could take it for the purpose, they say, of collecting evidence.
Yes, and I did tell them in the office. I said I want to see this giant room with all these tents in them, but because
Do we
they've
know
just
if
people
been.
getting those back?
People bringing grits to get those back?
Well, that's
Are people getting those back? The evidence in this?
no, not yet. But I don't know if they've even tried yet. That's one that.
That would be a different process.
That's
need to look
another.
into that.
Yeah, we need to look into that.
Because
Does
we-
that room exist?
It's a criminal court writ process and it
Yeah.
ought to be
Yeah.
police evidence.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think, I'm wondering if that's how Ronnie got it back. When
No,
we-
no. So what happened in that case is that his artwork and stuff. He's had art that's been in now the mayor's office for the past 6 years. So it's like folks know him. And he said it was like the 10th time it had been taken. He went to DPW, never was able to get
In
it
the
back
past.
in the past. And so this time he was coming back as they were, just loading it up from printing up some more stuff. And he's like, I can't take it anymore. I want my stuff back. So he jumps up into the back of the DPW truck, and right as they're pulling off, just to get his stuff out, he's like, "This is my stuff." They slam on the brakes. He, falls back, and he's like taking his stuff out. So they call the police right away. There was nothing going on. He's just taking his stuff out. So they ended up actually letting him take his stuff out. They took 2 rugs, some wood, and some cardboard that was all together and very mobile on like wheels. They took that and gave him a 647E for lodging from that, okay? Yeah. And then as they were letting him go, the DPW workers came and said he did $400 worth of damage on our truck, so then he got a felony charge. And yeah. And then, for vandalism, but then spent the night, but then they dropped it in the morning, but
Who took
these,
the property though, SFPD? We don't know about the.
DPW took
Bagged
the,
and tagged and it actually.
no, they took it.
But they give it back.
They gave his property, but they took the 2 rugs
Okay.
and the things that were for the 647E, but
Yeah.
they took those and they threw them away. That was not
That's
bagged
part
and
of their
tagged.
policy.
Yeah.
Large furniture, so.
Yeah, so that was, it was
Most of the time his artwork has been destroyed, and that is clearly
Oh,
a
he's,
violation
all of the things that have been
of,
up there, it's all gone.
policies.
Yeah.
What does the media say about these misdemeanors? I mean, people have a right to a public defender if they're charging.
Oh,
all
it is
the-
going there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on it now, but what's, the thing is, I think most all these are being dropped, and this is what was happening before with the warrants. Arrest isn't really used to punish people, it's used to take people away from their property so they can destroy the property. It's all aimed at clearing stuff off the street, and arrest is more of a tool towards that end than the other way around, so.
Can you require
or
a
sorry.
receipt? Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
Can you require a receipt? Let's say, I'm at the campsite, they're taking my stuff. Can I demand, oh, I got my iPod there, I need a receipt for my property? Are they required to give a receipt?
If you were present, I believe, I need to look back at my policy, I'll send it to everyone now. I believe that if you were there, you are supposed to receive a receipt. And also they're supposed to, actually, yes, you should receive a receipt, or they should be posting something on the place of which the property was taken. So if that's not happening, then that's also something that we should be recording in that process. Yeah, no, we in one of our videos that we've gotten, audio. Scott got a video or audio or a testimony where he was there and asked the DPW workers about posting a receipt, and they said they don't do that.
Yeah.
So it's written in policy, but the workers themselves say they don't do that, and that's what we really want as evidence. And this is how it worked in the LA case too. Getting officers and frontline workers who do not know their own policy.
Let me jump in really quick. For the, we do still encourage folks to go to the DPW lot to try and get their stuff back. If they can't get it back, that's when they'll file a claim, which is a different process, but we have the steps for how to do that. But for this particular one, it's a bit different, but I would still encourage folks to go there.
But I do think you raised a good point of making people have decent expectations so they don't come back to the coalition or to you and be like, you said I could go.
Oh, yeah,
letting them know that this
And-
usually doesn't happen, but if you have the energy to do this and write back to us about your experience, like when this happens, to provide further testimony, that will be useful to what we're trying to change.
If they need to do it for a network.
Sorry, you had.
Yeah, I just really, I'd like your name.
Brian.
Right, okay. I know you were taking notes yesterday. Okay, but at any rate, I really like the idea of people from the coalition, and I myself would volunteer to do it if the timing is right, to go with people who have been told that their stuff is tagged and go to DPW and just video the whole thing that is going on, and we would definitely go within the proper time limit, we would record how long it takes, we would be allowed in and look and,
Flo
take
is
a video
volunteering,
of
I
the
love it.
beauty of all of the
I mean, it
stuff
makes
that they're
sense
not
to do that
filing.
with people who videoed the beginning.
Yes.
Exactly,
Yeah.
a story, all the way through.
Yeah.
And that's.
I would just, so as you're doing this, like on the piece of when you're educating folks who are really interested and want to collect their own evidence, to definitely encourage them to continue to, after the first incident, to contact the coalition on the phone number or to Kelly's email, and to be in contact as you're going through this whole process. And we can give you tips and guides on how to further, document this process. I think that's a good point, because we find a lot of frustration on the streets now. People are asking us, what are you doing? Like, what can we do about it? There's like a real desire for this, so we're trying to create some ways of which people can tell their stories and make folks in City Hall and like the local homeless coordinating board see that this is really happening.
I have a black homeless friend, and he watched the second platform I'd made for him on wheels for his tent to be wheeled from one place to another when they asked him to move, be destroyed, and if he tried to claim it, they threatened to arrest him.
Yep.
Are they threatening to
The-
arrest under 647E or something different? Or just vague threat of?
Vague. Some of it is like, so I've got a video of where I'm standing there and they said that, like the cops showed up and they said, we're here to make sure that you don't touch anything as DPW is taking your stuff. If you try and touch anything, I'm gonna arrest you.
So the illegal, and this is right, because the illegal lodging can be a felony, can be a misdemeanor, and you can be arrested. Yeah? Yes.
Yeah.
So this is how they're using the threat. They used to, in the past, it used to be, most people on the streets had unpaid citations, so they had a warrant, and they would use this threat and arrest. In a past campaign, us working with the Treasurer's Office have stopped that practice, and the police have been looking for a way in which they can use the threat of arrest to take people's property, and this seems to be the new method. Now, you bring up a good point about these movable structures. It's a gray zone. If you do come across people who are living in these situations, I would definitely encourage them to film this, because the verdict is not out on what these things are and if someone can just take these, and if this is illegal lodging or what. We had a famous case where one of the DPW supervisors refused to take part in the destruction of exactly one of these buildings, and it's a powerful thing to witness too, to see what looks to many housed middle-class people as a home just be destroyed. And the legal definition of those are under question, so encourage them to document and contact us about any of that.
Yeah, is the criminal offensive rate, I just put a question, are you getting a sense of when they're bringing these 647Es? Because my thought is, if I'm the evil pigs, what I'm gonna do is charge everyone with this. Because then I can seize everything as evidence, knowing the DA is not gonna charge any of it. But everything technically can stay open for a year and nothing has to go to the DPW at all.
Yeah.
So that essentially, whatever nice policy they have is writing.
Yeah. And this is.
Where is that kind of what's happening?
Yeah, that's what's happening.
Okay.
Well,
And
no,
that's
the
fine.
647E, so it's happening, but it's a last resort. The police also don't want to book people. It takes a lot of time and energy.
Sure.
Like, all they want is people to move, to people to take tents down, to not be visibly present on the street. And so...
But they're also taking their tents even when they're not up. And so then I was talking to an officer the other day, and he was saying, he's like, yeah, people are just like giving over the tents. And I'm like, really? I'm like, come on. Where, they're giving out those, and they are actually, they've been starting to actually go to the DA. So they're not dropping them.
Have any of the 647Es actually been prosecuted, or do they all get dropped?
We're currently,
we're trying to figure this out. The public, so we were requesting a lot of data that's coming to us. The public defender is really sympathetic with us, and so we should be able to find that out.
but it's clear that there's a lot going on.
When did they start doing this?
It sounds like particularly like, especially like the last 3 months, but it could be, longer.
The Public Defender's Office said there were 0 647E citations and arrests in 2017, and that they're seeing a bunch, and they're trying to get us, they're getting us the data. They said we'd have it today, actually, but we haven't. But we'll let you know soon through the emails. We all have your emails now, so we'll just keep you up to date on all of these new findings that we're getting more broadly, if you're interested.
I'd love to know if there's a difference between Farrell and Reed, if they went up or down.
Yeah.
It seems like there's just been a flow, because there was a big push with Farrell, and who did the tent ban, which they're not using because that takes too much time.
Yeah.
And they have to offer resources as in one night
I've
in a
never met a
shelter.
policeman that claims to know what rough you is.
Yeah, and people actually they're asking officers, they're like, don't you have to give me 24 hours notice? Don't you have to offer me something? And they're like, no, we got all these other things that we can use.
Actually, in the video, the most recent video, they said specifically 647E.
Yeah.
That was their response.
Yeah, they
of
said it,
overriding
647E.
the prop, yeah.
But we're hearing that a lot.
Seriously, what about writs before the criminal court judge requesting return of property?
A lot. how your mind works.
I mean,
What-
you probably know more about this.
Yeah, if I can jump in, the thing is, yeah, actually, because when the one good thing, good is a relative term, about it being a criminal charge.
Yeah.
If theoretically this is a legit seizure or a hypothetical criminal case, there's gotta be a police report somewhere. In that report is supposed to be an inventory of what they took, because that is supposed to end up in the evidence vault. Now, I'm pretty sure none of that is actually happening. So it would seem that if you can prove that up, that's certainly nice to show grounds of illegal conduct, and arrest being done as pretext. With regard to a writ, I think it's not gonna fly unless the DA has said, we're not returning, we decided not to prosecute. And the DA, yeah, and they've got a year to decide that from whenever they police report. I mean, it's not uncommon on, I do a lot of DUI cases, sometimes somebody could pick up a DUI in March, and they might not file it until October. You know,
Well,
sometimes it takes so long to get
They're
the
not
back.
sitting in the car the whole time.
Well, they wouldn't seize a car in that case, but what does happen, this is a better example, is solicitation cases, especially in Alameda County.
Yeah.
They'll usually seize the guy's phone, and then they want his phone back. And you can understand he wants his phone back. So usually if the case resolves, then and then we fight over, okay, how much money are you guys going to seize versus how much are you going to give them back? And things like that, but they'll usually only do that when the case is resolved. If the case is still in this, maybe it is, even though everyone knows they're not actually going to file it. Technically, a judge, I think, is going to say, I can't do this because people could file a case.
When we made this, we started this working with Bay Area Legal in June. The 647Es were just coming on our radar, and we're just figuring that out. So kind of like what we put in here is not really getting into the SFPD and evidence. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be getting declarations about it and doing all of this, but we'll definitely want to wrap you to it into email with us and lawyers. And if we find out anything specific to SFPD, we'll send it out over email. But I do want to make sure we have time to go over the logistics of actually collecting this data. But it looks like there's one really eager question. So
Well,
in
it's
here-
kind of related to
Okay,
that.
yeah.
In gathering testimony from witnesses who have seen this in the past, I was
Yeah.
just curious how important the date and time was.
Yep.
Considering that they probably don't, keep a calendar the way we might, and so that might be fuzzy. And then the second part is, what's the timeline for this, and how much of this evidence will warrant suing the city or putting a stop to this somehow?
So the policy changed in May. So I think just saying since May, has this happened to you, and what has been your experience? Now, I'm kind of,
The time and date, people have actually been,
Are they recording?
they're
it?
actually pretty good where, yeah, they're, yeah. A lot of I've done, they're like, yeah.
I know I actually wrote 6 months in here, but I forgot about the policy change in May. The thing is, a lot of the stuff people have been describing violate even the old policy. So now that you know that, you can maybe discuss and find if it makes sense. If there's something really atrocious that happened, for instance, in the sweeps back in April, which was when they were really going on, that clearly violated the old policy too, we can definitely use that declaration. The evidence question, you just never know. That's why it's like really a three-pronged campaign. I mean, last time we were able to get the city to change their policy in writing. We had this really great case against Caltrans because we had the video evidence and stuff like that. What we're really hoping is that the declarations can give us a sense that this is systematic. So as each of you are able to get 5 to 10 of these, that will be a huge number, right, of setting down a baseline for this. If we're able to educate people and let them know that the coalition is doing this work, a lot of our outreach has been on Prop C right now because that's a huge priority. So we're hoping in the next 2 weeks, especially, getting folks going out once or twice to some of the key spots, which we have on a list. It's not in the packet, but it was the second sheet by there with the areas where people gather to get food, with the food schedules, and then also some suggestions on resource centers like MNRC in the Mission, MSC South on 5th Street. And then, of course, all of you know places and are going to BART stations and, know folks who are living unhoused who would be able to approach and, see if they have a declaration, educate them, tell them about our campaign, and let them know how they can videotape this stuff. And once you gather these declarations, to send them along to Kelly at the email listed on the sheet, or to just bring them by the co-office on Turk Street. But yeah, the hope is we'll get the declarations as a baseline. People will start hearing about this and knowing that they can film this, and we'll get better video from that. And that you all, as you're out there, if you find people who have compelling stories who are willing to be audio and videotaped, that after those 2 weeks, we have folks on our team who are interested in video editing. We have some great interns on this right now, where we can really tell these stories. And for instance, we're going to a hearing at the local homeless coordinating board on Monday to talk about this. We have a few videos that are, kind of hashed together. It would be really great that if we have a strong enough case, that we can have a Coalesce campaign going on in the spring that will be in conversation with the city attorney, putting pressure on to actually change these policies, to get a hearing at City Hall about if we should be continuing with this Healthy Streets Operations Center, and pushing either through advocacy or the legal work to change the current situation. So that's our goal with this. So who knows? Maybe it'll be the declarations. Maybe it'll be someone you talk to then videotapes and gets the shot that gets on the evening news and then changes the conversation. Or maybe it'll be just getting people's stories and being able to present that to people, so that when the coalition is doing a lot of talking about this right now, but we really want to get more stories from folks on the street and more video footage of this process actually in action. It's an especially good place to ask them if they'd be interested in filling out a declaration, if they have this experience, or if they've seen it, training them on how to do the videos or audio recordings. Yeah, we really wanted to do a blitz within these first 2 weeks. We'll be collecting evidence all year, but we want to have a good base in the next 2 weeks. Feel free to email Kelly or call the coalition with any questions on this. Are there any questions about how to actually do this? I don't know how many people are working in social services here or have experience organizing with the coalition on outreach, but if there are any real basic questions too of like how to do this, or if you want to go out with somebody, like we'll have coalition interns going out every week, so if you want to go out with one of us first, talk to us afterwards and we'll be able to set that up.
And a lot of folks, when you're going out, it comes down to respect, respecting people's space, respecting, but then oftentimes, particularly with something like this, people are really responsive to it, because they like that we're, working on this. And so people tend to be pretty open. There's, when it comes to, some folks don't want to be on camera, which is totally okay. Sometimes they'll be like, hey, we'll record the dog and do the audio, and so they're like, yeah. But within that, it's so, like when people are telling their story, it's so powerful and it's so just awesome. And so, but a lot of folks here know folks out there, so we talk. And really, when it comes to property being taken, it's not tough to find folks. It's like basically across the board. It used to be so last year, where it would be people would be getting hit by a sweep by like maybe once a week or once every couple weeks or something. It's literally every day now, if not multiple times a day. So it's just this constant thing that's going on because it's being coordinated through this command center or HSOC. And so they're monitoring, taking pictures. Also, we're getting reports from the pictures where workers that are throwing trash out there before the before picture, dramatic flare. And then and we've been getting more reports lately of with folks getting hosed down by DPW trucks. Things are really just off the hook right now. And so, yeah.
Are they always going out with police? Because they used to, like when Erie Alley was there, DPW would just show up and say, look, we have to take a photo of this sidewalk clear. Just put your stuff on the other fucking side and then, put it back. But now with